Hello, everyone. It is Camille Aiko. I hope that you are living the life that you love spiritually, mentally, physically, and financially. Tonight is our last night for the book, The 10X Rule. So let me hold it up. The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. We are on the last chapter on tonight, chapter 23. So a big thank you to everybody who has stuck it out with me as I'm growing. Hopefully you guys have learned a lot and you're growing as well. Hey Jessica, I'm great. How are you? What's going on, everyone? Hey Wilbert. So make sure that you are dropping those ones. Thanks Jessica. Thanks Wilbert. It did go by fast, didn't it? Too fast? Was it too fast? I don't know. Some of these nights were kind of long for me. Hey, what's going on, Dominic? All right, so drop a 1 if you're going to catch this live. Drop a 2 if you're watching this on replay. And you can share if you want to help your family and your friends. Of course, tonight is the last night, so we are going to do our drawing on tonight, and then we are going to discuss chapter 23, the last chapter of the 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. So hey, what's going on, Finny? Thanks for dropping that 1. If you have not gotten the book yet, you want to make sure you get the book, because there's going to be only a certain amount of learning that you're going to be able to grab from me. And you're going to have a completely different understanding when you get the book yourself and you actually read it and understand it for yourself. 98%. Yes, 98%, Wilbur. So before we get into it, let me go ahead and do the drawing. I have the names here. All right. And I'm not looking because I'm looking at the camera. All right. Let's see who won tonight. Connie Thompson. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. Probably not. But Connie Thompson, you have won. That's one of my team members, actually. Let's do one more. I'm feeling nice tonight. All right, let's see. Jessica, whoop, 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 you have won. So ladies, I will send you, I'm just doing cash prizes. So I will send you some money via Facebook Messenger after this is all said and done. Do 3, you just won too. All right, so chapter 23, but you don't have if you don't ask, right? All right, so chapter 23, it is about getting started with the 10X rule. So we've heard all of the principles, we know what it's all about, and so now it is time to get busy implementing. Are you sure it's not? I'm positive. I tried to show you all the name, and I pulled 2 different names. I was saying that she had won a different drawing for one of the other things that we did. Okay, so, and if you don't know what the 10X rule is, battery is at 97% now. If you don't know what the 10X rule is, the 10X rule is when you apply 10 times more action, 10 times more thought into reaching your goals so that you can have 10 times the results. Because what happens in life is we often only do what is necessary. We take the average action, and then when challenges come, we aren't prepared to go up against those challenges. And so that leaves us in a mediocre state with a mediocre mind, only getting below average results, because the average results that you got could not withstand the things that were going on in your life. I mean, just think about it. From unexpected bills, you get a flat tire, to the electric bill is higher than what you expected. The water bill is higher than what you expected. Something goes wrong with your car, right? All of these things, something goes wrong with your child. I'm even thinking about the flu that's going around, that some people they have multiple children. All of the children are getting the flu, and then the medications are like ridiculous, like $100, and that's even with insurance, right? And so we have to make sure that we have set ourselves up that no matter what obstacle, and those were mainly financial, but this could be in anything, okay? That no matter what obstacle you are up against, you are able to combat it because you have done 10 times more thought and you've done 10 times more action, which means you are living in abundance, and you're able to overcome. Between this hoodie and this light, I am like really, really hot right now. Okay. So hopefully I'll get through this without passing out. I did not cheat, Wilbert. Hey, what's going on, Tiana? All right, so, all right, now that we have kind of covered the 10X rule and what's going on with the 10X rule, just in case this is your first time tuning in, I don't want to leave you guys behind. But however, go back and watch the other videos because there's a ton that you have missed out on. Okay, so again, make sure you share, invite your friends to this. We're going to do a lot of recapping. Hey, what's going on, Brian? Good to have you on tonight. So let's get it. Only 2 times exist with the successful. All right. So as last night we talked about the successful and the unsuccessful. And he says there's only 2 real times that the successful pay attention to. All right. So, okay, girl. Well, thank you, girl. All right. So that was for Tiana. But there's 2 times that exist with the successful, and that is right now and the future. And so he is saying, Grant, our author, who has been coaching and mentoring us for the past 23 days, is saying that as we are going through reaching our goals, that it is important for us to make sure that we keep our mind towards the future. I like how John Maxwell says it, who is a renowned author, speaker. He's a pastor. He does so many different things, but he says, begin with the end in mind. But even in beginning with the end in mind, we can't leave reality. So you have to focus on the now, but always have your end goal in mind. And so for the people who are successful, there's 2 times that exist: right now and the future. The only time that people look back is to learn their lesson, right? To see how they can learn from past mistakes. Other than that, it doesn't work. We can't live in the past and expect to make it into the future, because those past mistakes, those past doubts, those past happenings will always hold us back. We will always begin to think about how we failed. We'll always begin to think about how we did not get the results that we desired. And so that will make us be one of the 2 or one of the 3 people, right? The 3 people who live in the degrees of either doing nothing, of retreating, or doing average work, being an average person. And we know that average gets us to where we are right now for majority. Okay. So maybe you are above the average. Maybe you have reached the level of success that you desire. Maybe you have done everything that you have came to this world to do. So maybe you are in that category. But this book is about talking to the people who have not reached everything that they want to reach. And so in order to do that, they need to do 10 times more thought, 10 times more action, so that they can live a 10X life. We are 10Xers. Okay. So at the end of this, we are now all experts at being 10Xers, and there are no excuses on why we can't live our best life unless we decide we just don't want to do it. That's the only reason. Hey, what's going on, Dr. Gerald Hightower? Okay, so act now and then keep acting with the knowledge that enough actions taken now will create the future. If you don't act, if you don't do anything about your dreams, about your goals, your future will not be created by you. Then life will be happening to you. And we know that life should be happening because of you, but not happening to you. When you decide to take on the 10X mindset, that life is happening because of you and not happening to you. The person who is the victim, the person who always has blame, is the person where things are always just happening to me. Why is this always happening to me? That's that person, okay? But we are 10Xers. Life happens because of us, not life happens to us, okay? So this means that we are going to get up and we are going to take responsibility for our lives, okay? All right, so I am on the wrong page now, so let me flip the book over. When successful people become lazy, they start protecting and they start conserving. And that doesn't create new levels of wealth. That doesn't create new levels of success. What that does is that puts you in a place where you are going to begin to retreat and not do anything else, because you're going to feel like, okay, well, I achieved it all. But then once your marriage starts going bad, that relationship starts going bad, your money starts going bad, because you stopped. Unless you already created an abundance of what you were supposed to do, then you are going to find yourself in lack. And so I'm reminded of some people that I was in business with, and see, they began to live on their past successes instead of focusing on creating new successes. And once they started focusing and depending on their past successes, guess what happened? The company that they were depending on shut down. So all of the income that they had coming in was over. That means that they were essentially broke. They went from being at a place of generating 7 figures to essentially having nothing, because what happens when you have more money going out than coming in? You're broke, right? And you have to figure out a way how to sustain that lifestyle. Well, guess what? They weren't prepared. They weren't ready for that. And so when that happened, they hit rock bottom. And at that point, they had to then make a decision on what it was that they were going to do. Okay, so the successful people, we cannot become complacent. We have to make sure that we keep going. We have to make sure that we're steadily creating new ideas. And see, the thing is when you are successful and you make success a habit, then you don't just give up, because you know that it's your duty, your responsibility, and your obligation to give everything that is within you. That it is your duty, your obligation, and your responsibility to give all of your potential, not just some of it, not just reach a certain place, whether it be spiritually, mentally, physically, financially, and then stop. No, you are to keep going. Why? Because people are depending on you. Why? Because people are watching you. Why? Because your vision is bigger than yourself. Why are you crying in your voice, LOL? Marshawn, you always love to come on and hate. How are you, my brother? Hope you're well. Yes, I am doing well. Call me. Okay. So now, always be creating new levels of success. Always be creating new levels of success. Okay, that is our job. That is our role. That once and again, as we've talked about in the 10X rule, that we should always be creating new problems for ourselves, because we know that when we create a new problem, then we're able to solve it. And that's what the successful do. They solve problems. But if there is no problem, then we can't solve it. And then therefore we lose value. Come bring me some water. That would be great. Never hating, always messing with my sis. Is that what that is? Okay. All right. So now, when you go for something, and again, we're wrapping up, okay? It's the last chapter. And so I'm giving the final tips. And there is actually a portion that you'll really need to get the book for in order to know everything that he's talking about, okay? So you make sure you want to grab the book, because there is a big chunk of this chapter where he gives an example of his life and just is able to point out the areas in when he actually used the 10X rule, okay? So when you go for something, go now with an unreasonable belief to do whatever is necessary to hit your target. But first you have to get clear on what your target is. If you're not clear, and it is not easy for you to explain to somebody, if it's not a picture that can be easily painted to someone where they can see where you are going, then recreate your target. Make it clear. Make it picture perfect, so that when you are describing it, that I can see it as you're talking about it. That you can see it as you're talking about it. Because your target, your goals, your dreams need to be something that's invigorating. It needs to be something that's going to make you wake up in the morning. It needs to be something that if you had to invest your own money, you are still willing to do it. If nobody paid you, you are still willing to do it. Why? Because you believe in that dream. You believe in that goal. You are aligned with your purpose. You're aligned with your calling, and you know that that is going to make you fulfilled. Not any level of money, not any relationship, but walking in that calling. And then along the way, you'll begin to get the right people, and you'll begin to get the right resources that will add to fulfillment in your life. But that won't be the fulfillment in your life. Okay? So Grant goes on to say that it didn't matter what his goals were. And it doesn't matter what your goals are, whether it's writing books, creating seminars, developing new products, working on marriage, spending time with your children. No matter what, go all in, be fully committed, and be hungry. Go all in, be fully committed, and be hungry. I don't know why this light is so hot tonight, but I'm definitely feeling it here. So I might actually get up and take some water, or get some water. Okay. So the next point, be completely unreasonable with the actions that you take until you get the results that you want. Be completely unreasonable with your actions until you get what you want. The problem with a lot of us is that we stop too soon. I was just thinking about, I was going through my book that I haven't read in a while, but I was going back through it because I want to implement some of the strategies for my business. Hey, what's going on, Maras? But I wanted to implement some of the strategies for my business. And I began to think about how the first time that I did it, I stopped. Why? Because I wasn't getting the results that I wanted. Well, in order to be a 10Xer, in order to really implement these principles, then that means that I should have kept going until I got the results that I wanted, because the strategy is a proven way to be able to get results, but I stopped. How many of us have been doing something that we know if we keep going, we're going to be able to get results, but because we stopped, it stopped. Your dream stopped. Your results stopped. And we can't have it that way. And Connie, hey, if you are watching live, you won one of the drawing prizes on tonight. So I will get that to you. So congratulations, you and Jessica. Woo, 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 woo. So thank you guys for sharing this video. Okay. So now be completely unreasonable, right? And so I was reminded, oh, and before even I go there, is no excuses for yourself or others. See, if you are really going to be a 10X person, if you're going to live this life of abundance in your level of success, because we already know that success is being able to overcome challenges. And so you need to be able to define what your level of success is, because my success may not look like your success. You might think that my level of success is miserable, and that's fine. But you have to define and clarify what success looks like for you. What are your specific targets? Depending on, what industry you're in. If you want to be married, if you want to be single, if you want to have children, you don't want to have children. What does success look like in each one of those categories for you? Define it and then live a 10X life in it. Okay? But no excuses for yourself and no excuses for the people around you. I will talk to my team. When they come and they talk to me about issues and problems, they got a couple minutes to go through, and then I'm like, okay, well, what are we going to do to resolve it? I don't want to hear any negativity. I don't want to hear you complaining. What are you going to do about it? How much money you're going to make? How are you going to overcome that? Are you not willing to keep pushing? Okay, because I know that if I give in to those excuses, then I'm going to have a low performing team. And this is how it is in life, that if you allow excuses to overcome you in whatever area, you are going to have a low, average, mediocre life. And that's where too many of us are now, which is why we just go to work, we come home, and our life is mundane, right? We just are in this cycle, and we can't think beyond going to this miserable job. It's like you go to work and you're so tired when you get home, and then you lay down and you might eat something, and then you go back to sleep. You might watch some TV, and then you get up and you do it all over again. Like, what type of life is that? At what point do you say, I am sick and tired of being sick and tired? And maybe some of you aren't sick and tired. Maybe you just need a wake-up call. Like, hey, there's more to life. This is just another form of slavery for some people. Wake up. Be free. You can be free. I promise you can. Okay? But there is a woman by the name of Anna Contrera, and she lives in a third world country, okay? But she partnered with an opportunity, and within that opportunity, she was able to make 7 figures in 13 months. Guys, this is a woman who struggled to put food on the table for her family. And again, in a third world country. So that means in order to make that type of money, she had to have something within her that excited her, that pushed her, that said, no matter what comes my way, I will not give in to those obstacles. I will not give in to excuses. But I know my reason why. My vision is before me. And even though I don't know exactly what I'm doing, I'm going to get up and I'm going to take action. And because of that, she's been able to have a global impact on the lives of people because she got up and decided that she was going to believe in her dreams and in her goals. How do you know that you don't have people waiting on you for you to fulfill your dreams and your goals? Stop sitting on the sideline. Stop being scared. Stop allowing everyone else to come and run your life. Get up and take action. 10 times more effort, 10 times more thought, so that you can have this 10x life that we have been reading about in the book, The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone. Okay, so if you haven't read the book, you haven't been following along, make sure you get the book. Read it for yourself. Allow it to challenge you. Allow it to push you. Okay? All right, so now means now. Make initial list of your goals, then list of the actions that are going to propel you in the direction. Without overthinking, start taking these actions. So write down your goals. What is your real target? What are your actions that you're going to take? And then take action. I was watching this video and there was this little boy in the pool and he was just freaking out. Like he's scared. He's like, I can't do it. I can't swim. I can't swim. And everyone else is laughing. And of course he's not thinking it's funny, right? But they're like, just put your feet down. And so finally, he put his feet down and he realized, I can stand in this water. I can do this. And that's how many of us are. We begin to overthink things and we feel like we're drowning, and we're not drowning. All we have to do is put our feet down and stand, and we will see that we will live and we will survive and we can move forward. But too many of us begin to overthink it, and we're like that little boy kicking in the water, screaming, just thinking that his life is about to come to an end. Like we feel like that we are just in this sunken place. You know, maybe your relationships are going bad. Maybe it's rough on your job. Maybe you don't have the finances that you want to have. And instead of like getting up and doing something about it, we're sitting there kicking and screaming and overthinking about why is my life this way? Why can't I handle the obstacles that come? It's because we're not thinking enough. We're not taking enough action. What if you became a 10Xer? What if you began to put 10 times more thought and 10 times more action into your dreams and into your goals? I guarantee you wouldn't be in the same place that you are right now. I know that I wouldn't be in the place that I am. And I'm not saying that all of us have these extremely poor and miserable lives. But what I'm saying is that we have so much more to do, and we have so much more to achieve. Are you ready for that? Are you ready? Like, is 2018 really your year? Or was that just a Facebook post or Instagram post that you made to make people hit like? Like, are we serious about this like thing called life or what? I don't know about you, but I am. You know, and I have people who are waiting on me to make moves so that they can then fall into what they are supposed to do. And just like there are people out there waiting for me, there are people out there waiting for you. Each and every one of us have our own purpose. We have our own calling, and people are waiting for us. What are we waiting for? What are you waiting for to get up and take action? So he says there are 6 things, okay? 6 things. Stick with me now. If you're taking notes, make sure you write these things down. That as we are making our initial list of goals and as we're writing down our actions that are going to propel us forward, and without overthinking, that we need to remember this. Do not reduce your goals as you write them. Don't write down your goal and say, oh, you know, that's too much. Then you're defeating the purpose of 10X. Whatever you initially write down, you stick with that. 2, don't get lost in the details at this point. Right now, all you need to do is write down your goals. That's it. Just write them down and write down your actions of how you think you're going to be able to do that. So, for example, Grant wanted to be the name that is synonymous with sales training. So one of the things that he said is going to get him there is to have a TV show. Now he's like, I have no background in television. I have no background in media. I don't know how that's going to happen, but it's going on my list. And all I know is that now I'm going to call up the radio stations. I'm going to call up, hey, Nisi Poo. I'm going to call up the radio stations. I'm going to call up the TV stations. I'm going to do what I need to do to put my foot into media so that I can get this TV show. And I'm going to do it by whatever means possible, right? So he's taking all of these interviews and he's doing things to make himself get noticed. But initially he didn't put down a step-by-step plan. He just said, hey, I need to get a TV show. That's going to help me to make my name synonymous with sales training, that I can get in front of 6 billion people. Okay? So when you write down your goals and your action steps, you don't initially have everything that you need, and that is okay. Some things you just have to commit to, and then you learn as you go. As we talked about on last night, that is one of the traits of successful people. That when you start, and then the example we use is that when you start a job, you don't always know how you're going to do everything on that job. That's why they offer training. That's why you do more learning. That's why you shadow people. That's why you sit down and you watch videos, right? Like you do whatever that business calls for you to do in order to learn your job. Am I related to Janae Aiko? No, I am not. All right. Now, ask yourself, what actions can I take today to move me towards those goals? What actions can I take today to move me towards those goals? So what can you do right now? I know I was thinking of some things earlier today, and I'm like, you know what? What I can do right now is begin to research, because I need to know what actions I do need to take. And so in order for me to know that, I have to go and do the research. Who is being successful at the things that I want to do? Right? And so some things, it's like you can brainstorm, but if you're really at a place where you don't know, you got to go figure out the answers. It's okay to go and research what you don't know. Look up the answers, okay? Number 4, take whatever action you come up with, regardless of what they are and how you feel. So if it came to you, essentially Grant is saying, follow your gut instinct. If you write it down, then go for it. And even though Wilbur, what can I say? Surprise. No, but regardless of how you feel and regardless of what it was, that whatever that gut instinct was, go ahead and do it. Knock it out. All right. Don't prematurely value the outcome of your actions. Don't say, oh, well, it didn't work. Oh, I'm going to give up. Right? Just like I was giving in the example of this method, the strategy for business. I was like, you know what? It doesn't work. But I only did it like 2 or 3 days, right? So of course it's not going to work because I didn't put in the level of effort that I needed to put in. So that was me prematurely saying, hey, it's not going to work. So do not prematurely put value on the outcome of your actions. Because for all you know is you're planting a seed. And that seed may not come to pass for weeks. It may not come to pass for months. But you cannot prematurely say that it is not going to work. All right. Number 6, go back each day and review your list. We do things one time and then we put it out of our minds. We forget what is happening. We forget, we can forget what we ate for dinner. We can forget what we did earlier that day. So that's why it's so important for you to write down your goals, write down your actions, and then every day review them so that they do not get lost in just whatever is happening in your life. Guys, stop living these mediocre lives. Stop living these average lives where it's leaving you miserable, where it's leaving you just feeling like, oh my God, why am I even here? Why do I exist? Why is this life the way that it is? Stop. Those should not be the questions that you are asking yourself. That should not be the way that you are living your life. You should be able to identify what is your purpose, what are your passions, and then set goals and targets, and then go after them with 10x actions and 10x thoughts so that you can live a life of abundance, because you can have it. But it's up to you. See, the things that we say are impossible truly are not. These things are possible, but it takes work on your behalf. And for all of my believers, we sit there and we read the word and we say, with God, all things are possible. And then we do nothing but then talk negatively and say it's not possible. And then you are defeating the very thing that God said. You need to get aligned with your actions and your words and your beliefs so that you can attract what it is that you desire into your life. Yes, Camilla, Darren Hardy is a very good business mentor. And I love, love, love his book, The Compound Effect. Okay. So now, a couple more things we're going to hit on before we close out. Like I said, there's a big chunk of this chapter that I'm not going over. So you want to make sure that you get this book, The 10X Rule. And yes, I know that it is backwards, but that's because my phone is in selfie mode. And this is by Grant Cardone, okay? So The 10X Rule. And if somebody even wants to jot that down in the comments for me, that'd be great. The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone, all right? So while we are going through this 10X goals and these 10X thinking, it can become overwhelming because so many of us are just so used to doing things at an average level just to get by. It's kind of like, well, I know I can do these things, and so I'm just kind of skating by in life. You know, we don't put too much effort into anything. So when you begin to act in a 10X way, it can become very overwhelming. It can become very scary. Okay, but you cannot get overwhelmed and then begin to talk yourself out of it. Tell yourself how it's not going to work. Tell yourself how you don't deserve it. Tell yourself why people aren't going to believe in you, why they're not going to support you. Don't be tempted to do that. Okay, so think about this. When a car is stuck, it needs friction, right? It needs to get enough traction going in order for it to make it an inch. And so it's the same way with us, that when we get to this place that we need to make sure that we at least take a little bit of action versus no action, because that is going to give us the traction that we need to move an inch forward. And if we don't have forward motion, then we are either going, well, not either, we are going backwards. Okay, it's just not going to work out. So you need to make sure that you are having forward action, because forward action is better than no action. All right. Now, be aware of the friends and the family who give you that good advice because they love you. And some of them, hey, what's going on, Bradford? Some of them, they really do. They have good concerns for you. But see, you are hearing the average-minded voice. You are hearing the average-minded person begin to speak to you and say, you know what, it's not going to work. You're too old. You're too young. You should do this, but they're going to give you all types of reasons. In fact, let me give you some of the ones that they say, if I can find it real quickly here. Let's see. The vocabulary and mindset of average people, even those you love, is always the same. Be careful. Play it safe. Don't be impractical. Success isn't everything. Be satisfied with what you have. Life is to be lived. Money won't make you happy. Don't want so much. Take it easy. You don't have experience. You're too young. You're too old, and so on. When you hear what average people say and think, thank them for their advice. Then remind them that you want their support and going for whatever it is your target is. And let them know that you would rather commit to your dreams and your goals and be disappointed than never commit and be disappointed. It is so much better to say, you know what, I went after it and this is the result that I got, versus always wondering what would have happened if I went for my dreams? What would have happened if I went for my goals? Don't be that person. who was living your life. You're older, and now you're like, well, what could have, what should have. All right. So let's see here. So as you are getting into your 10X rules, thank you, Wilbert. As you're getting into your 10X goals and into the 10X targets, you know, he says one of the things that really helped him as he was doing this himself, because he didn't just put this book together to make sales. He says that he actually implemented this, and you can go back and see some of the work that he has done, okay, that kind of backs up this 10X rule and the implementation of it in his life. But what he said was one of the key things is to ask yourself quality questions to help you move in the right direction. All right, so he says, what's it going to take for me? And I'll use Wilbert on tonight again. So for those of you who have not been on here, hi, Murtaza. Hopefully I said your name correctly. He is an electrician, and maybe he wants to be a global electrician. So what is it going to take for me to be a global electrician? You know, so that when there's things that go on in the world, they know that they can call on Wilbert to get the job done. So if that is your target, then you need to be asking, what is it going to take for me to do that? And then you write down actions on what that looks like. Yes, the guinea pig of the night is Wilbert. And then you're going to write down those answers, and you're going to write down those ideas. And you're not going to think about how it's specifically going to get done right now. You're just going to brainstorm it. You're going to write it down, and everything that comes to your mind, you're going to keep it on that list. Okay? And he says, just focus on hitting the target, not all of the specific details. Focus on hitting the target and not all of the specific details. So what are the things that you are going to be able to do in your life? What is it? What do you all know your target? Do you know what your goals are? Do you know what your targets are? Do you know what your dreams and your passions are? Because if you don't, that's the very first thing you need to get clear on. Okay. So he says, set a target big enough to keep you interested. It's kind of like a kid in school who is just way more advanced than everybody else. And so they sit in class and they're bored. When we don't set targets that are big enough to keep us interested, then we retreat. Okay. And it's kind of like, well, I don't want to do this work because I already know it. I know that it's going to come easy. Like they're not being challenged enough. Then they need to move up a grade so that they can get work that is going to challenge them and push them. And so sometimes they'll even begin to fail in the lower grades because they're just not putting forth any effort at all. Not because they don't know how to do it, but because they are bored with what they are doing. Some of you are failing in life because you are bored with what you are doing. Not because you don't know how to do the job, not because your job isn't a good job. It's simply because you are beyond that job. It's simply because you are beyond that relationship. You're beyond that business. You're beyond that scope of thinking in your spiritual life, and you need to be pushed to go further. Like some of you need to go further. And the reason why you're not further is not because you don't know how, and it's not because you're not skilled, and it's not because you're not talented. It's because you won't put in the work. It's because you're comfortable. It's because you're lazy. And so now it's time to get up and stop being lazy and stop being comfortable and make it your duty, your obligation, and your responsibility to give all that you have. Okay? So, where are we here? Do things consistent with the answers developed to quality questions. So once you ask your questions and that's helping you develop your plan, then you want to make sure that you stay in consistency with what is going to help you make that come to pass. And it's important that as we are setting these big goals and our dreams and the things that we're passionate about, you have to remember that you can't share everything with everybody, because there are going to be some people who are specifically there to be your dream killers. And you do not want to give them any fuel to the fire. So therefore, those people who you know are going to try and talk you out of your dreams, the people who are going to be naysayers, you need to get away from them. And you need not to open your mouth. And even though you might be excited and you feel like everybody should be excited for you, you cannot tell them, because they will try and kill you. They will try and kill your dreams. Okay? So continually disregard the naysayers and refocus your goals. So when you come to that place where you're having the naysayers and distractions are coming, get back to those goals. What are my goals? What do I need to be doing? Right? Because we already know that life happens. We can forget what we ate for dinner. We can forget what we wore the day before. And so things are out of our minds. That's why you have to go back and you have to review your goals daily. When challenges come, you go back and review your goals. You keep your bigger purpose in mind, not the challenges. That's what successful people do. Successful people keep their goals in mind. They keep the end in mind. They don't keep their challenges in mind. They don't dwell on those things. They come up with solutions and not problems. Bradford, the quality questions that you ask are quality questions that you really come up with yourself. But the one that I used was an example with Wilbert, just saying, he's an electrician. And so if it's his goal to be a global electrician, he needs to be asking the question, what is it going to take for me to become a global electrician? So what is it? Grant wanted to become the best or the salesman whose name is synonymous with sales. So when you hear Grant Cardone, he wants you to know that he is the sales guru. Okay. And so he's saying, what is it going to take for me to do that? What is it going to, and then he said, all right, I want to be in front of 6 billion people. What is it going to take for me to be in front of 6 billion people? So essentially you are asking these questions to push you to come up with action steps in order to fulfill your dreams and your goals. So hopefully that is clear. All right. You're welcome. Okay. So successful people embrace fear and discomfort. Unsuccessful people retreat, they do nothing, and they do average. Successful people take action, they do massive action, and they push through fear and discomfort. Okay, so now a lot of my notes are going into that portion where we're not going to cover. So Grant goes in, again, I will explain that he goes into a portion where he is talking about his own personal life, and he just kind of walks us through how in his life he has utilized the 10X rule and how that plays out. And so that's a pretty substantial part of the book. So again, if you don't have the book, The 10X Rule by Grant Cardone, you want to make sure that you get that. And we are in chapter 23 of the book. All right. And yes, I know that it is backwards, but if you scroll up, Wilbert wrote in the comments what the name of the book is and also who the author is as well. So thanks again for that, Wilbert. Okay. So let's hit on these final points that Grant is kind of wrapping up with in the book. And he says, you may not be the most talented. You may not come from the most affluent family. You may not be certain of everything. He says, but anyone can use the 10X rule. All you have to do is use 10X level thinking and 10X level action. And that is going to get you way beyond anybody else because you will outwork them. See, they can have talent. They can be good. But they're not going to get the level of success that they desire. There's a commercial that's out. And I can't think of the girl's name, but I'm sure you all can. So who was the rapper from Australia? The girl rapper from Australia. Who was that? But I think it's her. There's a clip of her in there, and she's just like, you know, people say that I got my fame for nothing. And that's how it's going to be. That you might look at some people and be like, they have no talent. Like they are trash. What are they doing being able to make this type of money and get this type of notoriety and get this type of fame and be able to travel the world and live the type of lives that they live, right? And it may not be because they're better than you. You might be very much more skilled than them. But guess what? You're not taking action. You're not doing anything about it. And so guess who's going to win every time? The person who is up taking action. Do you want to win or not? Do you want to be in the game or do you want to be on the sideline? It's that simple. You know, for me, it is if I wanted to be on a winning team, then I had to go through conditioning and actually play, not make up excuses on why I couldn't condition anymore because my side was hurting. I was too out of shape. I needed to push through that. So when you want things in your life, then you have to push through the obstacles. Okay. Okay. When it comes to your dreams and goals, there is no being reasonable or rational. And there is no distinguishing between possible and impossible. Like when you want to go after something, you just have to go after it. There is no, is this reasonable or not? No, you go after it. It is your dream. It is what God has put. Thank you, Jessica. It is what God has put inside of you. And so therefore you can't be looking at it. I think it's Iggy. She's got like a short haircut. I don't know. I don't really listen to that type of music, but just from it being so popular, I think that's who it was. Okay. So, you know, just when you are experiencing your dreams and your goals, it's just kind of like there is no, is it reasonable? If God gave it to you, follow it, right? We've talked about the airplanes. We've talked about KFC. We've talked about Walt Disney. We've talked about the cars. We've talked about astronauts. None of those things were reasonable. Everybody was looking like, this is absolutely crazy. This is insane. Like, you want to do what? We're going to do what? Even when when I went to the Muhammad Ali Museum, it just made such an impact on me. And just thinking about his actions were not reasonable. His actions were very unreasonable, especially for that time. You have a black man getting up in front of the world saying, I am the greatest. And it came off as maybe as a cocky thing to some people, but it was the way that he empowered not only himself, but his people. Like, he had a very intentional way of doing what he was doing. And then he made sure he was the best at what he did. But he was not reasonable at all. Some of us need to step out of ourselves, get out of our own way, be unreasonable about your goals and your dreams, because the world is waiting for you. Again, when we think about Muhammad Ali, he has a whole museum dedicated to his life and what he was able to accomplish. He was so much more than just a boxer. And there are people who come all around the world to Louisville, Kentucky to see and hear and educate themselves on what this one man was able to do through his boxing. Y'all can't tell me that there is not more for you. You have no idea, because we stay stuck in this low level thinking, trying to tell ourselves that what it is we desire is impossible, but it is so possible. But you have to get up and do the work. Faith without works is dead. We know that all things are possible with God, but maybe some of you all don't really have the God that you say that you have, because you make everything impossible. You can't even make it possible to pay your bills. Come on. Let's do better. Let's think higher. Let's push forward. Okay. Next point. It is impossible to live exceptionally if you continue to live your life with thinking and actions that are mediocre. It is impossible to live exceptionally if you continue to live your life with thinking and actions that are mediocre. Mediocre thinking will never get you an exceptional life. Mediocre thinking will never get you an exceptional life. In fact, you can look at your life right now, and if you're not happy with where you are, it is a good cue that you have been thinking with a mediocre mindset. Commit to 10x thinking and 10x action tonight. Make it your goal that you are going to begin to think bigger, that your action is going to get bigger, that you're not going to settle, that you're not going to just stand by the wayside and watch everybody else win, right? Because especially with social media, it looks like everybody's winning. But we can look at statistics and see that a lot of people are not. Okay? But make sure you personally commit to 10x thinking and 10x actions. It's not about intelligence, economics, or even who you know, because without massive action, none of those things matter. And we've already talked about that, so I'm not going to dwell on that point. Gain support. And this was kind of my own thought, just as I was thinking about things that I've seen and things that have been expressed. But as you are going after your 10x goals and you're doing 10x thinking, you're doing 10x action, you must gain support from the people who are around you. And Grant says, you got to gain support from your family, gain support from your business partners, gain support from your organization, from your friends, whoever is surrounding you. You need to gain support from them. And this is one of the things that is so important, that when you are pairing yourself with someone in life, whether it's a relationship, a friendship, a marriage, because you want to make sure that you are aligned with them and they aren't the ones that are holding you back. Because if they are, you are either going to compromise or it's going to cause friction between you all. And so you want to make sure that the person that you are with, the person that you want to build with, that you all can be on the same page and that you're going to push each other to reach the full potential and not just settle in this life of mediocrity, but be able to move forward in a life of abundance. Now, the other thing is, I heard someone talking and they've made an amass of money, okay? And they were just saying, the older that I've gotten, now that I've hit such and such age, I just don't feel as driven anymore. And I just began to think, like, were you really driven or were you chasing money? Because that's two different things. And when we begin to think about living out purpose and living out our callings, then it doesn't come really to a point where if you're walking in your purpose that you get tired of doing that or feeling like, well, I'm just not driven in doing that anymore. Like I look at my grandfather who is in his 80s and it's still on his heart to preach and be the man of God that he has been called to be. I think of the woman who we do missions with in Haiti, and the only reason why she's slowed down is because she's had different issues come up in her life. But in her 90s, she is still going over into Haiti to do mission work. There are people who are of older age who still desire to keep going and to keep pushing. Why? Because they know that there is more that is within them. So are you chasing or are you driven to walk in your purpose and in your calling? Because when you are driven, then you keep going. Like you're always going to have your hand in something to help somebody else, because your goals and your dreams should be bigger than you. Like your vision should be so much bigger than self and your family. Because if that is the case, you won't do much. I can guarantee you that. You will do enough just to get by, if that, and then you will settle. Again, we can look at the state of our society, and that's how it is. Okay, so you have some people who have like gone above and beyond, and then you've got some people who are stuck in the middle, and then you have some people that are just like, I'll take whatever, I'm not doing anything. Y'all can come and help me. It is what it is, and that is the mindset. Okay, so, and not saying everybody, okay, so that can't be a blanket for everybody, because everybody is in different situations for different reasons, but y'all get what I'm saying. That is the general consensus for the mindsets. Chasing indicates something outside of you. Driven comes from something within you. Absolutely, it's that intrinsic value that is saying, you got to keep going. Like people are counting on you. This is what you were meant to do. This is your calling. So even when Grant wrote this book, he was 52 years old, and he's like, you know what, but there is so much more for me to do. There's so much more for me to accomplish. And he said, it is my duty, it is my responsibility, and it is my obligation. He said, it is my ethical responsibility to give everything that I have. It is my responsibility, it's my duty, it is my obligation to give everything that I have. And no, it may not always be the same way that you do things. You might switch it up, right? Maybe reading a book, it might be coaching, it might be doing a business, but there's always going to be something that is within you to say, I have to keep going. I have to keep pushing. But for some people, it is just that one thing that they've just been called to do. But and if you're not doing enough. If you've quit too early. That's why a lot of people, they die shortly after retirement because they stop working. They stop doing what it is that they know is going to keep them active and keep them young. They get home, they have no extra plans. They bought into the whole thing of, I'm just going to go home and retire. And they retired, all right? They retired and died. Do you want that to be your life? Then I suggest you tap into your purpose. Okay? All right. So make your fire so big and so hot that others will have no choice but to sit around in amazement at what you are doing. Make your fire so big and so hot that others have no choice but to sit around in amazement at what you're doing. All right. So we talked about adding wood to the fire, and keep going, and you keep on adding pieces of wood to ensure that your fire is just getting hotter and hotter, because there's just something about a fire that amazes people, and it will cause people to get their attention. And Grant reminds us often throughout this book that it's not our skills and our talents or anything that is getting in our way, okay? It's the fact of obscurity. Nobody knows who we are. Okay. And so that's why we're not able to get the traction that we need. So that's why he's saying, build your fire so big and so hot that people have to pay attention to you. You have to say, hey, I am the best. I dominate. I am a force to be reckoned with. I am here. I am making things happen. Because if you don't make yourself known, then people don't know to come to you for whatever it is, your goal. Maybe it's a speaking engagement. Maybe you want to be on TV. Maybe you want to have that business. Maybe you want to have a husband or a wife. Maybe you want that man as your boyfriend or your girlfriend. Maybe you want him as your Valentine's Day date. But maybe you aren't making enough noise. They don't know that you even exist. So what you going to do about it? Okay. Now, but if they say no, don't be a pest. Find creative ways. Okay. But the last paragraph of the chapter. Look around you, and you will see the world filled with average people, average thinking, and at best, average actions. Take another look, and you will really see behind this acceptance of average are people who have given up on their dreams and who cease to live with dynamic purpose. They are instead willing to settle for whatever their estimation of normal is. When you're choosing the people whom you will learn from, look for the exceptional, those who stand out because of the way they approach their lives. Don't worry about how they are special or different from you. Focus on how they think and act and how you can duplicate that. Success is not a choice or an option. It's your duty to operate at the right level of thoughts and actions. So follow through on your responsibility to leave a footprint on this planet, so that when you are done with your tour of duty, you will be remembered for approaching your life with nothing less than the biggest of dreams and the most remarkable actions. Remember, success is your duty, obligation, and responsibility. And by thinking at 10x levels and taking 10x actions, I am certain you will create more success than you ever dreamed of. So just make sure, guys, that you commit to living a 10x life if you want more for yourself. If you want to stay average, if you want to stay below average, that's fine. That's your choice and your decision. But if you have been following along, now you have at least the basics to equip you to live a 10x life. And my final thought before I get off here is, I was just thinking about some of the funerals that I've attended of older people, and how much sometimes older people can be forgotten, right? And it's not that they didn't do good things in their lives, but you can just identify some of the people who decided at some point that they were going to be average. And so I want us to make sure that we have impacted the world enough that even if we die in our older age and maybe you have some issue where you're not able to get out, that you have made such an impact on the world that people are going to come out and say that this person had such a big influence on my life that there is no way that they could be buried in their life and I not come and pay my respects. Like 10 times more action and 10 times more thinking, because you don't want to live this life and die full. You want to live this life and die empty. Put everything that you have out there on the table. All of your capabilities, all of your skills, all of your talents, everything that is within you. Go out there and make life happen because of the things that you have done. Don't just have the mindset that life happens to me. No, life didn't happen to you. Life happened because of you. So what are you going to do with that? I'm going to miss going live with you every night, but love this book. Likewise, Jessica, Wilbert, happy Valentine's Day. Happy Valentine's Day, everybody. My grandfather is 82 and still senior pastor. I would like to meet your grandfather. I admire older giants in the kingdom. I bet they have so much great wisdom. Absolutely. I'm sure they're somewhere out there. I don't have any posted, I don't believe. But yeah. Absolutely. So guys, if you all don't have anything else, that is my time. I again want to thank you all for going live with me every night, especially on those nights where I was on here at like 1 a.m. or I guess those mornings that I was on here like 1 a.m. But you guys have been there and you have been consistent with me. So hopefully you truly did take something away from this, and we can all live 10x lives. So everyone, hey Ronald, what's going on? My name is Camille Aiko, and I hope that you are living the life that you love spiritually, mentally, physically, and financially. Be blessed. Good night, everyone.